52nd Street, Midtown Manhattan, where the elite meet to eat. And in the center of it all, 21, a world-famous restaurant that's been serving power brokers and celebrities since the Roaring '20s, when it started as a speakeasy.
Come on, quick, everybody, drink up. Hey, Nick, drop those bottles.
You didn't know that I was a part-time doorman.
Are you doing doorman
Nice
too?
to see you.
How are you?
You're looking lovely as ever.
I know, what a horrible day to be out and about.
Well, that's why we're going in. We have a warm fire.
Thank you.
Today we've got a corner table with Deborah Norville, the Emmy Award-winning host of Inside Edition. She's one of the new generation of stars who've come to favor this power retreat. Well, Deborah, in the classic tradition of too much of a good thing can be wonderful, we have 7 courses to sample today.
I
a little
love
tasting
it.
menu.
I love it.
So,
I haven't eaten for about 3 weeks in anticipation of this.
Well, then we've got something to eat. Let's go.
Fabulous.
Including antelope. Well, let's talk about food. You have beluga caviar, which Chef Blauberg actually went to Romania and helped engineer a lower salt content, which brings out the flavor. So why don't you give yourself a little caviar, and I will partake of this roasted Maine lobster.
And it smells
I
so
love
good. And it's so beautifully presented. If you look at the...
Just for you, a little piece of lobster here. So how are meal times in the Norville household these days?
Well...
A husband and 3 children, 2 careers. What's a dinner table like?
Dinner table can be sometimes a very interesting place. With 3 kids, 8, 4, and 17 months, quiet dinners at home are something that are part of our past, not of our present.
But do you usually dine together as a family every night?
I like to, unless... Usually we'll go about 3 or 4, maybe 5 nights, and Carl and I just can't take it anymore. And we will...
What is it that you don't like? The noise?
It's the constant...
The M&Ms blowing your plate?
It's the oomps. It's the oomps that are... Don't talk like that with your mouth full. Don't start eating until everyone is served.
No elbow on the table.
Oh, yeah. We just say Mabel. Mabel, if your elbow.
No elbow on the table.
Yeah, keep your elbow off the table. So we'll do maybe 4 nights of family dining together, because I think that's very important.
Get us out of here.
Feed the kids at 6 o'clock, and we'll eat later, or we'll make sure we, find a great place like this to come to in the city and have dinner.
I read in one of these, enjoy your caviar, I read in one of the recent article about the movie, The 24-Hour Women, you were noted in there as being, a working mother, a lot of responsibilities. I read that you said, and I want to hear this from your lips, that you plan your meals a month in advance?
Absolutely. Tonight we're having roast turkey, and tomorrow we'll have the leftover turkey with rice and gravy, and maybe make
You should be working for the Pentagon. You're able to plan meals a month in advance?
You know what? If I think
Good for you. Why?
It's organization. If I only have to think of what we're going to have to eat once, then that's 10 other times that I don't have to stand in front of the pantry or stand in front of the refrigerator waiting for it to speak to me.
Well, good for you.
And you know what? In my house, if you have an opinion about what you'd like to have to eat, please feel free to voice it. Because if you don't speak up...
Do you have a suggestion box in the kitchen?
No, we don't, but I'm easily accessible. Mom, you can approach me in person. And if you don't have an opinion and you don't share it, then don't complain about what you're served because you didn't offer an idea, because ideas are the hardest thing to come up with.
I want to react. Deborah Norville's married years have been a lot happier than the single life. Good for you.
You're having lunch with the woman who was the dateless wonder for many, many years. There are a lot of... No, seriously.
Does anybody watching now believe that this woman was the dateless wonder?
No, it's true. It's true. I would go out on blind dates. I had so many blind dates that some of them would be so awful that I wondered if my friends really liked me, or maybe I should find new friends. And you had to have a way of escaping some of these ghastly dates. So what I finally seized upon was my beeper from work. And I would have a girlfriend page me, say at 10 o'clock. And if it was a great date, then you just excuse yourself. You go to the ladies' room, you pat her nose, you come back.
But if it was a bomb...
You'd say, I'm terribly sorry. There's been a development on an investigative story I'm working on.
I'm out of here.
I hate to have to run, but duty calls. And chances are, if I was having a horrible time, they were having a horrible time, too.
So what did you go home and make drapes?
I made drapes.
So how many blind dates do you think you've had in your life? Give me an accurate,
Seriously?
relative, within 10. How many?
Over 20.
More than 20 blind dates.
Yeah,
but the last one you had
was with my husband.
That's right.
So, hope springs eternal, girls.
Right? Tell us the story of how you met Carl.
Carl Wellner, my husband of 11 years, and I met on a blind date. We had mutual friends in Sweden. I had gone to Sweden to see where my mother's family was from, and my cousin had this fabulous party with a lot of Swedish schnapps and stuff, and this one couple I met had to leave the party early to go to an event in Stockholm, and they saw Carl at this baby christening. They said, "We've met the girl for you. It's Kiki Nilsson's cousin." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Right.
But they had talked me up so much that when he was coming to Chicago on a business trip, he said, "Well, what the heck? I'll look this chick up." And we met for a drink, and he was such a nice guy. It just...
So he was a businessman living in New York.
Living in New York.
In Chicago, you have a blind date. The pager goes off. Forget it.
I didn't even bother with the no, because
throw the pager out the window.
I didn't have to bother with the pager because we were meeting for a drink after I finished my newscast before I had to go participate in a charity event. So I had a finite out time.
So this is a blind date. You're going to end up marrying this man. When did you know that, hey, this is good?
When we were sitting there talking just like this, there was the little voice in my head that said, "This guy's going to be a friend for life," because I've got a lot of really good guy friends.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and just the little voice said, "This guy's going to be a friend." And in fact, we were friends long distance before we were ever anything more serious.
What was going on in Carl's head? Because I'm sure you've discussed this with him on that.
I think hubba hubba.
Oh, here we are. Good. Professionally, Deborah's adventurous. Like the time on Inside Edition when she anchored the show from the hospital just hours after having a baby.
It's a treat today to share with you some pretty good news. That's Inside Edition for today. I'm Deborah Norville. Thanks for watching.
I want to know which came first, the decision to have the baby or the decision to do the show in the delivery room.
Do you know what? This is the sort of thing that you kind of ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then you go, come contract time, I'm going to get my revenge.
And on assignment in China, there was a snake dinner. Now, of course, it tastes like chicken.
It does taste like chicken.
Everything
I know,
that's like
everybody
an
says
anomaly
that.
tastes like chicken.
It does, but frankly, it's just too much work for minimal effort. It was king snake, and so you've got, this is the snake, and I guess the insides are gone.
So you mean it looks like a snake on your plate?
You take a snake and you hack it into, say, 2-inch long pieces, and there's the spine, and the ribs are coming down like that.
Very attractive.
It's snake. But it was tasty.
We're going to put the Norville snake recipe on our website. 21 is one of the most sophisticated places in New York. Over the years, such immortals as Humphrey Bogart, Orson Welles, and Marilyn Monroe have been regulars. The dining room features toys and souvenirs from famous patrons like Chris Everett, Willie Mays, and there's even an Air Force One model from President Clinton. History echoes throughout 21. Downstairs, we found a secret 2-ton concrete door built into the wall, a remnant of 21's speakeasy days. Open it today, and you're in 21's legendary wine cellar. And we're back with Deborah Norville at 21, and you've got truffle-crusted sea bass.
Which, if this were smell-o-vision, you would just, you would ask yourself, how can you sit there and not be devouring it right now?
Well, you can devour it.
And you've got?
Well, I have the roasted sea scalp, and it's a web of potatoes.
Potatoes on top.
Wonderful.
Yum.
So this is like La Dolce Vita, except it's not an Italian restaurant. This is certainly the good life.
It's just the best.
Do you think if you didn't have marriage, family with 3 children, you might even be more successful? It's so often we look at the one side of it with women being able to juggle everything. What about the other side? If you didn't have that, do you think you'd even be further along?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I may not be, doing the morning news over on NBC because I chose to be with my family. On the other hand, I've found a way that I can still do what I do in television and be with my family every night. There's minimal travel to my job, and that's really important. And if there's a lesson in that, I think it's be confident enough in yourself to make the choices that are right for you. Because I truly believe if you make the choices that are right for you and the people who are important in your lives, God will take care of the rest of it. There'll be enough food on the table. There'll be enough money to cover the check when you write it, that sort of thing.
That's extremely positive attitude. We have another course coming, so I want to get that other course.
Not till I finish this one, sweetheart.
And we'll get the other course. I want to talk to you a little bit about the trauma at NBC.
Oh, for dessert.
No, we'll get to that before dessert.
Okay.
Coming right up. But first, 21's executive chef Eric Blauberg explains that roasted sea scallop creation.
Now, you want to start off with an Idaho potato. Here I have a plastic mandolin. If you don't have one of these at home, you can use a box grater. It'll work just as well. Here I have some that's already shredded. We're going to place that in a mound on a piece of parchment paper, season with a little salt, a little bit of pepper, some chives, and a little bit of flour just to hold it all together. Just kind of spread it out just a little bit. Place a sea scallop on top. We're going to put some more of those shredded potatoes on top of the scallop, like so. Season it, salt, pepper, chives again, and a little bit of flour.
Saute in oil for a minute and a half on each side. Then Chef Blauberg dresses with caviar zabayon and a grape juice port wine reduction. Another 21 specialty is ready for the table.
Deborah, this is actually my first encounter with antelope.
Really?
You'll have to see if it tastes like chicken. Have you had antelope before?
I have had antelope, yeah, it's wonderful.
Where? Where did you have it?
There's a place out in Vail. There's a restaurant that specializes in game. And I had it out there. And also, well, Swedes don't eat antelope, but they eat elk and other things like that. Is it good?
Excellent.
Doesn't taste like chicken, though, does it?
It does not taste like chicken or snake. Deb, I want to talk about the personal crisis you had. For two years of your life, you were on the Today Show.
Right.
And it turned out to be the lowest point of your life. You left. You entered with high expectations and left feeling like damaged goods. This was the darkest period of your life. How bad did it get after you left the show?
I went through a complete shutdown. I stayed in my apartment for probably more than 2 months. I didn't get dressed. I didn't get out of my bathrobe. The only time I left the apartment was if I had an appointment at the pediatrician with my newborn. I had left NBC Today.
You were depressed.
I was
heavily. Yeah. The Chicago Tribune said something like, NBC used her up, put her in the trash, and left her for dead.
Left me for dead on the side of the road. Yeah.
That's what this...
And you know what? They were right.
Because the actual experience that led up to the depression was truly a crisis in your life. Going to work every day, getting the cold shoulder from colleagues, not having the support of the very executives, those middle-aged men who put beautiful Deborah Norville in there, never supported you.
I think the hardest thing was, in the face of all of that, there was this barrage of media stories, all of which were negative toward me. And I think it's natural human tendency that when you're being attacked, you want to defend yourself. And I went to the bosses at NBC, and they would have never let me sit here and do a lunch on camera with you. And I had probably 2 legal sheets of folks who wanted to interview me, and I said, please let me call these people back. And they said, no, Deborah, we don't want you talking to the media. Trust us. Let us handle this. We're experts at this sort of thing.
You went through it, and you learned a tremendous amount about people getting stabbed in the back, about not getting supported, not having loyalty, and you end up at home, depressed. What pulled you out of it?
I think getting back in touch with who I am. And I think that's what I learned, which is why I wrote the book, which is why I'm back in television. All of us go through tough times in our lives. And I think the common denominator is you lose confidence in yourself. If you've been smarter, skinnier, prettier, more active, whatever, this crisis, whatever it was, wouldn't have happened to you. And so what I did was get back in touch with who I am. I reminded myself what I was good at. I reminded myself that they never said I was a lousy interviewer, that what they had said were I was younger and blonder than Jane Pauley, which was silly stuff. And the more I focused on what my assets were, the more I was able to take pride in that and have the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to go into radio. If I get good enough at radio, maybe I'll go be a correspondent.
Rebuild a little bit.
Rebuild myself. I tried to find the lesson to be learned in the whole process, which I think is good advice for anybody going through a tough time. And the lesson I learned was twofold. Trust in yourself, and you truly will know how to live. I didn't think that up. Gerda did. And the other thing is trust your gut and do what your instincts tell you to do. And my instincts told me to stand up for myself. And if I had all to do over again, the only thing I would do differently was ignore them when they say don't talk to the press.
Just talk to the press.
Yeah, look, I'm a straight-up person. I am what I am. You know, you think I'm doing a crappy job on TV, that's fine, and you may be right. But at least let me defend myself, and maybe you'll think differently.
But yours is a perfect example of that quote, victory has 100 fathers and defeat is an orphan.
Defeat is an orphan,
You're
yes.
an orphan. Now, let's talk about the current situation with the morning shows. Did you get chills when you saw what Lisa McCree was going through over there at Good Morning America? They brought her in for Joan London. 7 months later, she's out. Now they bring back the old-timers. They're doing better.
There's no question that Lisa McCree and Kevin Newman are both very talented newscasters, obviously both very attractive people. I don't think the audience had a chance to learn who they were and to learn to like them the way the folks at ABC did.
Too much pressure to make it an instant success?
You know, you never want to be the replacement. Trust me. You want to be the replacement's replacement.
I cut something out of the paper yesterday. This is the New York Post, page 6, which is a highly regarded gossip page here in New York.
Highly read.
Highly read. It's talking about Katie Couric feeling pressure because of Diane Sawyer.
Right.
Now, tell me if this doesn't have an echo to you. An insider is saying Katie is said to be feeling pressured and obsessively watching Sawyer's every move. By saving GMA, Diane can now write her ticket at ABC. Everybody worships her, says a Today insider. Katie is most definitely not in the same position. Is this starting to sound familiar?
You know, whoever the insider is at Today, they've got a little red phone on their desk that they can pick up, and it goes immediately to all the scribes at the newspapers around New York. Because the same insider was saying more or less the same things about
you.
Absolutely.
How about this? What do you say to the young person getting into business about watching their back? Somebody who's naive and they think, well, if I'm a good person, everyone is a good person. They look at the world through rose-colored glasses, in a way like you probably were at one point.
I knew to look out for these guys, but, you know, once they come after you, there's really not a whole lot you can do. And I actually spoke to a group of college students a couple of weeks ago, and they asked a similar question to that. I said, look, if you want to be liked, if you want a friend, get a dog. Because the people you work with are not your friends.
Friends, maybe you have a handful of real friends. Somebody's when they come by, and I'm sure those people did stand by you. When you had to put music on during the darkest days, what would you put on to bring your mood up? Did you have any music that you ever played? Any singer that you ever listened to, or band?
No, but you know, you can always put a wreath on and it'll improvement. You know, R-E-S-P-C-T. You know, that'll always get the mood up.
Okay, let's take a break and we'll get the dessert up. Deborah Norville here at 21, and we've got flambe.
Oh, I love it.
I taste it all day. Now I want you to try some of my antelope.
My God.
What's going on, Eric?
We're back with Deborah Norville from Inside Edition. 21's chef, Eric Blauberg, is flambeing some winter fruits to accompany our desserts.
Let's talk a little bit about motherhood. It seems to go so well with dessert, you know. You had 3 children, but you always had to be back on camera for the most part. How did you manage to get the weight off and stay in shape there?
It takes time. You know, I hate these magazines that do stories about the woman who has a baby and in 6 weeks be your old self again. There's no way. It is a physical impossibility. If your body has spent 9, almost 10 months expanding and your bones are moving and your ribs and your hips, it's not logical that in 6 weeks' time you should be back in the same size jeans.
Did you have any special tricks you'd like to share with people?
I had no tricks. Wait a year.
Wait a year?
Wait a year and try not to eat everything in sight.
Now, on another note, if you could organize a fantasy dinner party at your home, with your husband, Carl, and somebody taking care of the 3 children, 4 living people, anywhere in the world will fly in, and I don't have to be one of them. You know, I'll be happy to videotape this for you. Who would you like to have at your dinner for a fantasy dinner party?
Oh, a fantasy dinner. Okay. Okay, we're assuming that language, everyone is going to speak English and speak it well enough, so language isn't a problem.
Yeah, right.
I think I'd like to have Zhuangzi from China, because I think what's going on in China is very exciting. I think I'd like to have maybe Prince Charles, because there's a lot you could get into with him.
Maybe you might keep it a little stuffy with Prince
No,
Charles.
not at all.
Everybody's like deferring to the prince?
No, because this is my fantasy dinner, so there is no protocol.
Okay, good.
You know, it's Chucky
so
Baby.
Charles is, he's got his elbow on the table.
Charles has his elbow on the table. Zhuangzi is suddenly speaking English.
English, good. And eating California cuisine or Norville food. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably fried chicken from down south. So that's 2 people. Maybe a celebrity, you know, a Hollywood starlet
Just
type.
take a Hollywood celebrity. You've got anyone to choose from. You can have Leonardo. You have Jack Nicholson. Hey, he's dangerous at a dinner party.
Yeah, I've seen Jack Nicholson at a dinner party.
Diane Sawyer. You could have
Diane would be good, yeah.
The woman you said made it safe for blondes to be smart.
I did. I said Diane Sawyer made it okay for blondes to be intelligent on TV.
Well put.
Because up until Diane becoming a national figure on CBS television, the predominant role of blondes on TV was to be the weather bunny.
And growl when it rained. All right, one more person. I put Diane Sawyer in there. One more.
Oh, we'll throw Bill Clinton in there.
I'm sure he'd be happy to have the night off.
If we've got Bill Clinton in there and we've got this Hollywood starlet, then God knows what's going to be going on underneath the table. So it could just be an interesting dinner for lots of reasons.
So I'm going to close every show with a toast to our Food Network viewers. Deborah Norville, you're in the driver's. You're in the anchor's chair on the toast. What would you like to say?
Tack så mycket. Det var mycket fantastiskt att äta med dig. Och jag hoppas att allt ska bli bra för dig och för dig också. Skål.
And you said,
I said, thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic to eat with you, and I hope everything continues well for you and for you. Cheers.
Cheers, Skull. I like to say Chinzani 100 years. Deborah Norville, what a treat.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Let's do this again sometime. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.